Welcome to a new season in our lives. We are on a mission to demolish the arguments that have kept us from taking our next step towards true Christian authenticity. Are you ready to tear down those self-protective masks that are holding you back in life, in business, in relationships? It's about mindset, but more specifically, learning to keep our minds set on Christ regardless of circumstance. This is the Mindset School podcast. I'm your host, Peggy Easterling. Are you ready? Let's go. I am so excited. Today, I have with me Jenn Trinidad of Budget Divas. Jenn was with me back in 2023, March actually of 23, in episode 7 of the Mindset School podcast. Jenn, it is so great to reconnect.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Back when we connected, you mentioned how you had knocked out $90,000 worth of debt in 4 years in the middle of running the membership Budget Divas and offering so much. And a lot has happened since we connected last. Jenn, do you mind just sharing with us where life has taken you?
I'm Jenn Trinidad of Budget Divas, and a little bit about that backstory was back in 2016, my husband and I were aggressively trying to get out of debt and just felt like we were going nowhere. We were following the rice and beans and rice plan, not going out, eating ramen and tuna sandwiches every single night kind of thing. And it just felt like it was going to be a long journey to pay off $90,000 of debt. And in the midst of it, we did find something called mystery shopping, where we would get paid to go to restaurants, go to retail stores, and evaluate their customer service. And that really helped to accelerate our debt payoff to the tune of paying off $41,000 in 1 year for a total of $90,000 in 4 years. And so that's really where Budget Divas had started. I had a lot of people asking me, like, hey, how did you do it? Like, how did you pay off debt while still living your life, not sacrificing, and really just having fun with your family and friends and not alienating them? And so that's how Budget Diva started. So that was back in 2021 when I started the business, and everything was going well until November of 2023 when my world just shattered. So in that year, everything was looking great for Alden and I. We had just bought a house. We were both building our businesses. He had a business called No Grumble, Be Humble, and I was building Budget Divas. And I remember in the back of my mind thinking, when is the other shoe going to drop? Like, everything is going so well. What is going to happen? And on November 21st, 2023, I got a call from his boss saying that he had gotten into a car accident and he was in the ICU. And it was in that moment that I already knew, as I was driving to the hospital, I already knew he was going to take him home. And it was in that moment that so many emotions came up. But honestly, I knew that God was going to take him home because Alden was such a Christ follower. He was one of those people where he would go up to you in the middle of the street and say, "Do you know Jesus? No? You're coming to church with me on Sunday." And he would tell me 2 weeks prior to his passing, he would say, "Jenn, I need to bring everyone to Jesus. Like, I need to save everyone. You don't know what's happening in the background." And I was so confused, but once he went into the hospital, I already knew. I was like, he had done everything that he was supposed to do on this earth. And as soon as he entered heaven, God had said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant."
I had the pleasure of meeting your husband a couple of times online, and he had this energy about him. Like, it's indescribable energy, just a love of Christ like no other. It was just like a magnetic draw to him. And man, Jen, I'm so sorry that you lost Alden. But I can't imagine what that felt like. Take me to you're there, you're walking through that as someone who loves God and someone who is at the peak of their entrepreneurship. And what happened next? So many of us, we want to know who God is when we're in the midst of all the good. But I feel like you have some things to share in the midst of the challenge that people really could hear and learn from.
I think when you're going through grief, you're in survival mode and your heart is beating so fast, you can't sleep. You just have this force of energy that you want to keep going. And so it was, I want to say, a good 6 months where I was still trying to live my life. I was trying to deal with the grief. I was trying to run the business. I was trying to just maintain life as is. And then there comes a point where your body is just tired and your body's like, no, now it's just time to rest. And so after that 6 month period, like I just slept a lot. And at that time, I was working with my coach who initially helped me launch this business. And he said, "Jen, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep running the business or do you want to shut it down?" And I said, "I want to shut it down just because this story means so much to me and it's a business that Alden and I built together. I don't know how to run the business without him. I don't know how to change the story of this is what happened and this is where we are now to the earth just opened and swallowed me whole. And now I don't know where to go from here." So I think that everyone deals with grief so differently, but for me, I just needed not to deal with it. I needed to keep my mind off of it because at the end of the day, all I would do is just cry.
You're right. So many people deal with grief differently. You were there and deciding to put that business aside. Did you think it was gone forever? Did you think maybe it might come back?
I knew in my heart that I wanted to start it up again. I just did not know how it would look like. I
Yeah.
knew that I still had people asking me constantly, "I would love to become a secret shopper. I would love for you to help me get out of debt." But in that moment, I just didn't know what that would look like.
Jen, in that time, did you feel like your capacity, like you just didn't have the capacity to be around people at all?
When Alden went into the hospital on Tuesday, the 21st, and then we had to let him go on Wednesday, the 22nd, the doctors had said, "He's on all the machines. There's nothing more that we can do." It was in that moment, and if anyone has experienced grief, you don't go through like the 5 stages, like one by one. You go through it all at once. So, in a way, I felt peaceful because he wasn't suffering anymore. And another way, I felt angry. It was just all of the emotions were bundled up like in this tangled ball. And sometimes I wanted people to be around me. I didn't want to be alone. And other times I was like, I can't talk to you right now. The main thing though, I was so angry at God. I was so angry because it's like, here, God, like, I know Alden did all this great work for you. And in my heart, even though I knew that you were going to take him home, there was nothing more that he needed to do on earth. What about me? What happens to me now? And even though other people didn't see it, like, I needed him. I wanted him here. I wanted to be selfish and be like, even though you want to take him home, no, I need him here. And why are you doing this to me? So, to answer your question regarding relationships, yes, there were some people that I just could not talk to because the response that I would get from them is they would quote me a scripture, and that wasn't helpful because I know what the scriptures say, but still my emotions are not in that headspace where I'm able to say, you're absolutely right. Like, he is no longer suffering. He's in a better place. He's happy in heaven. He's with God. He's in the eternal resting place that everyone longs to be. I did not want to hear any of that. And then other would say, well, at least he's not suffering anymore. Or the worst one was, you're still young. You'll find someone else. And so I really had to set my boundaries on what exactly can I handle at this moment. If there was something that was said to me that I just could not deal with, I had to just let it go and I had to set those boundaries. And others were just a listening ear. They would just let me talk my head off and be angry and say all the emotions that were coming to mind. Really, they wouldn't judge me. They would not say, like, stop being angry at God. I don't want you to go this way. You need to move on. They would just let me rant. And I think that was really helpful.
That's so good. And even as you share that, I think that having those relationships ahead of those moments are so important, to have your people that you can just be real and raw with, so that when moments come and you need to be real and raw, you have people around you that you feel comfortable just being yourself. Do you feel those people were already in play, or do you feel like you cultivated that differently through that season?
There were a handful of people that I would constantly reach out to. One was my best friend Val and her husband Dan, because it was always the four of us. We were always together, doing things together. We had Bible study nights every single Friday. We would go to church together. So those were two people that I really had leaned on during that time, where I could just be open and I could just be myself and I could just be angry and sad and upset and frustrated all at the same time without judgment.
I love that you had people that you could just be right where you are, but you still were in a season like I heard you say earlier, you were just so angry at God and you didn't want to hear the scripture. So many of us, we want to show up for someone grieving in the way that serves where they're at. And I hear many times people who are grieving and they're frustrated at the response of people. And you mentioned knucklehead not things that people say that never serves anyone. But then there's other people that really want to show up in the best way possible for someone, and the best way for one person might be to just sit in so much depth of compassion. And then the next person, they don't want to do that. They just want to go to a movie and laugh. And everybody, their journey's different. How do you feel someone could have navigated that with you better?
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. because everyone grieves differently. And there were days where, yes, I just wanted to go to a movie and laugh. And there were other days when I just wanted to be by myself in a dark room and cry my eyes out while listening to music. Grief is such an interesting thing because sometimes you feel guilty for being happy again. And, in the movies, when there is grief, people will always say, oh, so and so will want you to be happy again. And in the first 6 months, I did not want to hear that. I did not want to hear, like, Alden would want you to move on. Alden would want you to be happy again. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. But the one thing I will say is if there is somebody grieving and you have the heart to help them, just sit in silence with them. Ask them, like, hey, do you want to just put the TV on and we can just sit in silence? Or do you want to go for a walk and we could not even talk? Or I had a lot of friends who did not live in Hawaii like you, and they would just say, hey, how about I just give you a call and we just sit in silence? And that's totally fine.
You mentioned Hawaii. You're still in Honolulu, right?
I'm still in Honolulu.
I know how much Alden loves nature and to be outside in the beauty of Hawaii. As you've gone on this journey, how has being in nature also helped you in this season?
Oh, goodness. It was so hard. So, Hawaii is such a small island, and Alden and I would go everywhere. So, every place that I touched on this island would make me cry because there was nowhere on this island that we did not go, especially during COVID when we were all locked up in our homes and couldn't go anywhere. We would just drive around the island, and that was our date night. We would drive around the island, pick up some food and just have like a couch talk in the car. So navigating through that was really difficult. I think the one thing that helped me though was making new memories on my own. So going to his favorite restaurant with another friend or going to the beach with someone else and making new memories just it didn't mask the memories that I had with Alden, but it just helped to rebuild it for myself. Another thing too is you mentioned nature. Yeah, going to the beach or taking a walk in the park and just having that complete silence and just listening to God or just talking to him in nature just really helped to get my emotions out. So I remember calling one of my friends and saying like, I hate this. Like during the day, there's so much that I can do with work or with housework or to keep myself busy. But at night, when everything is silent, that's when the tears start streaming down my face. And she said, you need to go to the gym. And I said, I don't want to go to the gym. Alden and I used to go to the gym together. And she said, just try it. Just go to the gym because if you go to the gym and you tire yourself out, when you come home, all you're going to do is just take a shower and go right to sleep. And so I tried that, but I didn't want to run on the treadmill because Alden and I, that's something that we would do together. So I started taking classes. And I remember the first class I took was a Zumba class. I was like, hey, I love this. This is physical activity with a community. I love to dance, so it's fun, so it doesn't feel like exercise. And that really helped me get out of not really my comfort zone, but it helped me to process my emotions. And also, the community that I had met at the gym they knew nothing about my story unless I shared it. And so it was kind of like starting fresh, which I really needed that. I really needed to be around people who didn't constantly ask me, "How are you doing?" or remind me of, "Oh, this is my best friend that I used to hang out with when Alden was here. How do I process this now, knowing that instead of the four of us, it's just the three of us?"
I love me some Zumba. And yeah, I would sometimes see your amazing pictures that you would post online of those Zumba classes and being able to get out there and be active and be around other people and to find some joy. It sounds like it added a lot of value to a hard season.
Absolutely.
Having budget divas shutting it down for a season intentionally to navigate the season how you needed to, how being a someone who is walking through all of that financially, that can be challenging.
Yes, absolutely. Money, more than anything, is emotional. When we're happy, sometimes we want to spend money. When we're sad, maybe we want to spend money. And so everything that I knew prior to this happening, it was like I was always on budget and I was so good with money. And then when everything happened, all I wanted to do was feel better. And so all I wanted to do was spend money. And so the one thing that I want to say is when Alden and I were going through the Dave Ramsey plan, the one thing that Dave Ramsey says is even before you start your debt free journey, you need to get life insurance. So that's what we did. We were $90,000 in debt and we didn't have a penny to our name. But still, we were like, we both need to get life insurance because if something were to happen to one of us, at least the other person would be taken care of. And I am so grateful that we did that in our first steps in our debt free journey because when everything happened, I knew that I would be okay. And I heard somebody about 2 months ago on a podcast, and this person had said, life insurance is not only to take care of you financially, but it's to take care of you emotionally. So that if you don't want to work for a season, you don't have to. You can go get therapy, you can process your emotions. Money is just so emotional. And really, when you're going through grief, the one thing that I would say is get good therapy. There were so many people that I spoke to, and some of them really helped, and some of them were not helpful. But once I learned what I really needed to do and how I needed to show up to the therapy appointments, which could mean just crying a lot, which I did. The first session that I had with a therapist, I did not have tissues right next to me. And I just like cried my eyes out. So the next few sessions, I always have a box of tissues right next to me because that's what I needed to do. I just needed to cry my eyes out and to have somebody in that space listen to what I had to say and just let me let it all out.
Good therapy. It sounds like you were determined that you were going to keep looking and keep going and keep trying again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that the therapy wasn't good. It just matters who you're gonna connect with. So when you can find somebody who genuinely knows where you're coming from, has been in your shoes, has overcome that, knows how to lead you, especially from a Christian perspective, that is gold.
So good. And Jen, Do you feel like you were in a session when everything kind of clicked and the puzzle pieces started coming back together for you to be able to not be so angry with God? Because I just heard you say something so positive and wanting people in a Christian environment, but you weren't there at first. It sounds like you've come back to this place. How long did that take you? And was it a therapist that helped you to get through that place?
Growing up, I was always taught you don't fight with God, you don't get angry with him, you just be a good person and abide by his laws, the Old Testament God. And then when I really came to have a relationship with Jesus, I realized, no, he's my father and we can get upset at him. And so people would also tell me that it's okay. God can take it. If you're angry with him, it's better to talk to him and be angry with him than to completely ignore him and eradicate him from your life. And so that's exactly what I did. There were days when I would talk to God and be like, I'm so angry with you right now. I want to talk to you. And he could take it. And there were other days where I was like, just let go. Let go of my hand. Like, why do you keep holding my hand? You're continuing to walk me through this season, to walk me through this dark season. And I don't want to. I just want you to let me go. And he would say, no, there's no way that I'm letting you go. I'm going to continue to hold your hand until you get to a good space of where we can be friends again. And I don't remember how God and I got together and we're friends again. But now I can say, yeah, you are still good. The situation that I went through, definitely not good, but you are still good. And now it's just a matter of just walking in obedience, but every single day, all he tells me is all you need to do is just show up. Just keep showing up, keep opening your Bible. I will tell you what to do next.
And here you are sharing your testimony. Did you know at a certain point that you were going to have to share, or did you think that you would never be on a podcast sharing this?
Yeah. I remember the therapist had told me God speaks to people in different ways. It could be visual, audio, or just something that you see on the wall. And God really speaks to me audibly. So one day I was in the car and in my YouTube, you know how YouTube has all these recommendations. There was a podcast that was recommended that I watch. And so I watched that podcast and the title was something to the effect of, I was so angry at God when my husband died. And I was like, this is definitely a sign. And I listened to that podcast. I must have listened to that podcast about 20 times. And each time I learned something new. But it was at that point after I listened to that podcast where the person was saying, I had lost my husband. I could not look up to the sky for 2 years. And even though she was a gospel singer, she was still singing praises to him and saying that he's a healer. She didn't believe any of it. And after I had listened to that podcast, I remember it was like a couple months later where I heard clear as day, God said, I know you don't want to do this, but I want you to talk about it.
Wow. That moment that you're listening and the realness and the honesty and the authenticity of even the title of the podcast, that's what made you want to listen, is because it was like, someone's pissed at God and I'm not alone, right? That's the real of it. Because God's not afraid when we are just ticked. He's not afraid of that. And I can say that I felt that way before. I can say I have been so angry at God, and He's not afraid of that. In fact, I feel almost dirty even thinking that way. But yet, He wants us to come to Him covered in mud head to toe. When we feel like we're in that muck and the murk in the middle of it, He wants us and He's calling to us. And I heard you earlier say that He wouldn't let go of your hand. Did you have some of those similar feelings? Like, man, I'm so messy, I'm dirty.
Oh, yes, definitely. And sometimes I felt like, why am I even worthy to hold your hand? Like, I am so mad at you. I have been upset for the past year and a half. Most humans would be like, okay, fine. Like, she does not want to be saved. She does not want me to be around. I'm just going to let go of her hand. But not God, right? God Almighty never changes. His story never changes. He never changes. And it doesn't matter how much I throw a fit or how much I don't want to be around him or don't even want to look his way in the direction of the sky, he's still going to be there. He's like, no matter what, I am still here. I am never going to leave you. Only you can leave me.
There's somebody out there listening right now. They're like, yeah, but you don't know me. You don't know how far I've gone. What would you say to that person?
I would say it takes time. It definitely takes time and just keep clinging on to him. Like, even if it's by just a tiny little thread, just keep clinging on to him and ask him questions. Don't be afraid to ask him why. He may not give you the answer, and sometimes he doesn't even owe us an answer. But just keep asking him why, and he will tell you what to do next. As long as we cling to him, I really felt blessed because I had people like you and so many people around the world that I've never met in person, but I've met through platforms like Zoom, right? Or through communities that just loved on me so much and just cared for me so much. And so it was such a blessing because how would I know that this was all going to happen? But God really brought the people that I needed in my corner. So when something like this happened, there were people to love on me. We have a mutual friend, Francine Ivy. So Francine and Kate both came to Hawaii 2 days after his passing to be with me. And I had never met these people in person before. I had only met them by phone or online. And here they are traveling thousands of miles to Hawaii to come be with me at this time. And that was so powerful. And that's just the love of God.
Yes. If you're listening to Jen as she's sharing this and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, but I don't have people like that around me. It's a call. It's a call right now to find those people. Find your tribe now. Not in your most desperate moment when you need it the most. Find them now. So, whatever it is that you've harbored or walked through or worked through that may have you isolated from people in community, I just encourage you to let Jen's story lead you back to finding people and connection. There's a time for solitude in seasons like this. It was the time for you to sit alone with God. But without those people that did come to your side, Jen, and sit with you and just even to sit and breathe in the same room that you're breathing in, how might this story look different for you?
I honestly don't think I would be here today. If there's someone listening and you're saying, I don't have a community, just keep praying. Keep praying because God will bring that one, two, five, 10 people to you that need to hear what you have to say and can just be by your side. There's so many of us who are called by God, and sometimes God will just tell us in the middle of our day. It could not even be when we're praying or reading our Bible. It could just be we're driving or having lunch, and all of a sudden, God will be like, I want you to call that person. I want you to go up to that person right there in the grocery store. She may seem like she has it all together, but underneath, she's just crumbling. And I want you to say hi to her or say, Can I pray for you? And that's exactly what I learned from Alden. He would hear God so clearly in the middle of his workday when he's dropping off his residents. He used to work for a retirement community. And so when he would go to the hospital to drop them off, he would see somebody just passing by and just be like, Can I pray for you? So just keep praying because he will bring the people to you.
He will. And he who has friends must show himself friendly, right? So go be friendly in the grocery store. Go show someone a smile. Sometimes that's all it takes. Just a smile to someone could change their day and make a connection. Jenn, what's next? Here we are. You're in this season. You're open to sharing now. And thank you for coming on today and sharing where you're at, your story. I know just hearing the realness of it, the authenticity of being able to be where you're at in this season with God, it's going to bless someone like the podcast that blessed you. I know it. And at the same time, what do you feel is next for Jenn Trinidad?
I don't know. I don't know, Peggy. I don't know what's next. All I know is I just keep showing up in obedience and
That's
sharing the story, sharing it with people like you who have the ability to share it on a podcast to thousands of your listeners and hopefully just impacts one person to be like, I do not have a good relationship with God right now because of everything that I went through, but I'm going to start today. And it doesn't even have to be a long prayer or opening your Bible or journaling. It could just be like, God, please show up. Please show up for me the way that I want to show up for you now. And He'll take it from there.
Thank you, Jenn. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing your testimony. I know it's going to bless someone. How can someone who hears this story and they want to connect with you or they're interested, they heard what you share and your Budget Divas and they're interested in all that has to offer, how can they connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. I do have a podcast called Budget Divas, and that's where you can hear more about my story, about our debt-free journey, what we're doing in our community to pay off debt faster with mystery shopping. If you want to learn more about mystery shopping and what is this all about, I do have a free guide that you can go to budgetdivas.com/paid to shop and find out more information there.
I will leave that link in the show notes. Go check out Jenn Trinidad's Budget Divas, subscribe to the podcast, and let Jenn know how much this message impacted you today as she was sharing her testimony. I know there's going to be someone, Jenn, that's listening and it's going to change their life. Thank you so much.
You know, hearing is one thing, but taking action on it is another. It's easy to stay in the cycle of consuming information, nodding along, and feeling inspired. But transformation doesn't happen just by listening. It happens when you step out in faith and do something with it. That's why in every episode, I'm going to challenge you to take one small but powerful step. Because if you want to break free from the fear, doubt, and mindset struggles that have held you back, you have to start moving. So here's today's challenge.
Today, I want to challenge you, if you were listening to Jenn and the part where she said, God, just please show up for me. I want to challenge you to fill in the blank. God, please show up for me in blank. Whatever is resonating right now, even as I say those words, please show up for me in blank. Spend some time alone with God and ask Him. Just ask Him to show up for you. He's a good God. He cares.
Thank you for joining me today on our journey towards Christian authenticity and a Christ-centered mindset. Remember, the masks that we wear not only hide our true selves, but also keep us held back, living small in life, in business, and in relationships. As we wrap up, I invite you to take a crucial step towards your breakthrough. I created the Breakthrough Quiz just for you. Head over to themindsetschool.net/quiz and dive in to discover a guide to move you closer to your authentic self and renewing your mind God's way. Until next time, let's be real, okay?